A new damning report from ProPublica details how the data firm Cambridge Analytica had profiled gun owners and used that information to build a database of profiles to which they then used to target with political ads to help Donald Trump win the election in 2016. So, I mean, this is a huge violation of people's personal privacy. Okay, look, people's names, addresses, phone numbers, their registered voting status, and lots of other information was put into this database compiled by the gun lobby and was used for political purposes to help Republicans win elections. Again, massive violation of privacy, and it's something that even when you tell Republicans, all right, people that are Second Amendment enthusiasts, hey, by the way, you are on a list. You are on a list of lobbyists, all right, owned by lobbyists and shared by a data firm with politicians in order to target you with ads they think that you'll respond to. They'd be like, what? I do not like this at all. Okay. Now, it's funny because, I remember the days where the right wing was constantly going, I don't want the government to put me on a list. I don't want to be on anybody's list. I believe in freedom. I don't want this tyranny. I don't want to be on no weird list. Well, they say that the left wanted to put them on the lists, right? But it turns out, no. Groups allied with the right wing, with the gun lobby, are the ones putting you on these lists with all of your personal information. Okay, people like Douglas. Okay, ProPublica spoke to some of these people. One of them, again, Douglas loves guns. He loves the Second Amendment, as all these people do that are on this list, and he also loves his right to privacy. He said of the gun industry, "Hey, I like the idea that they're pro-gun advocates," which again makes sense, right? Because he's pro-gun, but he said, I don't like the idea that they're getting information possibly illegally to forward their agenda. You know why? It's because it's insulting to their intelligence, okay? Hey, you're an independent voter, okay? You're ideologically motivated because you want to protect the Second Amendment, right? And it's kind of an insult to their intelligence when you have these groups that need to micro-target you with ads to manipulate you into something you probably would support anyway, gun rights, but they use this information in such a way to mess with your mind, to give you information that is not true, okay? And I'll give you some examples of that, right? In order to manipulate you into voting for what's really in their best financial interests, okay? So now Douglas is one of the millions of people whose sensitive personal information was compiled over 2 decades by something called the National Shooting Sports Foundation. So it's not as big or well known as the NRA, but they're a very big force in politics, okay? They ended up working with some of America's most iconic gun makers and, retailers. So you got like your Smith & Wesson, or I'm sorry, Smith & Wesson. I don't know why I did that. I know the name, Smith & Wesson, and these other gun manufacturers working together with the NSSF, who then hired Cambridge Analytica to do all these targeted ads. The industry group assembled data on a collection of gun owners and others without their knowledge or consent in order to persuade them to vote in the industry's best interests, which again, the industry wants to loosen gun regulations, okay? That said, that works in the industry's, best interest because, hey, we get to sell more guns, okay? With less regulations, sell more guns. It's good for us. It's good for business, right? Whereas, I think the average gun owner is still going to be like, well, yeah, it makes sense to have some regulation. I don't want it to be a complete free-for-all. There are some out there, gun owners who do want a complete free-for-all, but I think most people are okay with, reasonable gun regulations, okay? Now, that said, the industry group that collected this data without their knowledge or consent, did so to persuade them to vote in their interests, and the NSSF then credited that campaign with landmark victories that had basically curtailed some of the, most reasonable gun control efforts. Okay. And as a result, of course, we have mass shootings in this country literally all the time. Because we do not have really any kind of structured, comprehensive gun regulation. And there it is. All right. Now, the NSSF, based in Shelton, Connecticut, represents thousands of firearms and ammunition manufacturers, distributors, and retailers, along with publishers and shooting ranges. In 2016, as part of a push to get Trump elected for the first time and to help the Republicans keep the Senate, the NSSF worked with the consultancy Cambridge Analytica to turbocharge the information it had of potential voters. And so this is where it gets scary, how detailed this is. Along with potential voters' income, debts, and religious affiliation. They know your debts. Analysts learned whether they liked the work of the painter Thomas Kincaid and whether the underwear women had purchased was plus-sized or petite. What? Now, they took all that personal data, and that's just examples, right? They took all that information and they ran it through an algorithm and created psychological profiles that allowed for some very, very detailed targeting. All right. Potential voters were assigned one of 5 personality groups, which is risk takers, carers, go-getters, individualists, and supporters. And of course, once you did that, they would tailor a message to each group. Risk takers were viewed as highly neurotic and susceptible to ads that would, basically be targeted at what they're afraid of, okay, according to Cambridge records. Go-getters, on the other hand, would respond better to messages of optimism and the promise of a better future. So, for example, if you're a risk taker, right, you would be targeted with an ad that's tailored to scare the crap out of you. One example, Obama's coming for your guns. Oh, no, Obama is coming for your guns. It's going to take your guns. That's right. It's going to take your guns. And so what happened is that these ads went out, and the people who were the risk takers were like, oh my God, I need to vote for Trump because Obama's going to take my guns. Hillary Clinton's going to take my guns. I mean, even though they said Obama was going to take my guns, but he didn't. Over 8 years, this time Hillary Clinton's going to take my guns. Oh my God. I must vote for Trump. And all these pro-Second Amendment people. All right. Well, now, according to the report, the fierce, susceptible risk takers were targeted with ads that introduced negative scenarios before providing a reassuring and authoritative tone. In Missouri, risk takers were told, Senator Blunt is working hard to keep Obama from turning the Supreme Court into an enemy to your gun rights. So, again, using the fear of a black man, the first black president, to scare these gun owners into, voting for the best financial interests of the gun industry. Obama. There it is. Now, with that said, that's the risk takers. What about the go-getters? They were shown what appeared to be a father and son hunting together. Okay. In North Carolina, they were told, join us in thanking Senator Burr for opposing Obama's Supreme Court nominee to protect your future and your gun rights. Obama. Still using Obama, right? Nearly 817,000 people saw these ads, according to Cambridge's internal metric reports. For the next 3 months, Cambridge blasted other ads and videos across social media, altogether garnering nearly 378 million views and drove more than 60 million visitors to the NSSF's website. So, did this work? It was extremely effective. Because, of course, you're dealing with psychology here. right? This whole thing was designed to get into your heads, okay? Get your personal information, find out what makes you tick, what you think, how you think, and to use it against you for their own financial interests. Digital tyranny, folks. Now, in a report titled Make America Second Amendmentable Again, Cambridge Analytica concluded that its campaign for the NSSF had encouraged nearly 10,000 more voters to turn out in Missouri, 7,744 more voters in Ohio, 6,979 more in North Carolina, and 4,743 more in Pennsylvania. Now, you might think, well, those are not huge numbers, guys. I mean, geez, you would think that it would be more successful than that. Well, however, when it comes to these votes, understand they contributed to the to victory for the NSSF's preferred senatorial candidates in all of those states. So that was a victory. That was enough. In fact, an NSSF report reviewing 2016 said after a long 8 years of President Obama, the firearms industry can finally operate without daily attacks from the Oval Office, thanks to the election of Donald J. Trump. Those daily attacks, really, are basically like, hey, we need something like, minimal to prevent more school shootings, which we seem to have a lot of right now. Maybe we should do something about that. Just saying. But no, that was too much, right? Daily attacks. Yeah, look how many dead kids there are. Apparently, pointing that out is an attack. But no, anyway. Furthermore, this is that report. Thanks in part to our efforts, there is a pro-gun majority in the U.S. House and Senate. And, thank goodness for that, because now there are dead children. The bodies will continue to stack up. Great job, everybody. Look, the question here is this legal? Probably not. But really, who is going to enforce anything, right? Now, experts said that the NSSF may have violated laws against deceptive and unfair business practices. Why? Well, companies have privacy policies. And if they violate their own privacy policies by, basically lying to them or omitting the fact that, hey, by the way, we are going to share your personal private information that you shared with us with, for political purposes, with campaigns, okay, with Cambridge Analytica, that is going to help Republicans, win these elections. And like, you might be like, well, I was going to vote for those Republicans anyway. Yeah. Even if that's the case, look how much they used you. I mean, like, these are dirty, deceptive practices. Full stop. I would feel violated, honestly. And now, a ProPublica review of dozens of warranty cards from those gun makers found that none of them had informed their buyers that the details would be used for political purposes, for political campaigns. But as I mentioned before, the U.S. has pretty weak laws for privacy. They have weak enforcement for sure, especially now under Trump. They ain't going to protect your privacy at all. I mean, Elon Musk has our social security numbers. They've got all of this personal information now. If you've ever received a check, a tax refund, or anything from the government, guess what? 25-year-olds have that data. A guy named Big Balls has your data. Okay, much less like, I don't know, could it end up in the hands of Putin or President Xi of China or whoever else? Okay, Mohammed Bonesaw Salman, okay, having your information? It could be anywhere now because it's in the hands of someone who is unelected and unvetted, Elon Musk. So our privacy is pretty much gone now. That said, not only that, but the U.S. has no federal or state laws requiring companies to notify consumers and gain clear, specific, informed consent before their data is shared. So they can share the, like I said, the data with anyone and everyone and use it, of course, to monetize you as if you were the product. So that's a problem. Only a handful of states, like California, have in recent years adopted any privacy laws that give consumers the ability to opt out of their information being shared. People who care about privacy, your hair should be on fire, even if you're right wing, especially if you're right wing. Having your information shared, again, doesn't matter if you were, supporting like pro-gun candidates, right? You should be mad that they abused your personal privacy like this when they were probably going to get your vote anyway. So there was no need to find out, what size of underwear your wife wears. Okay, that's creepy and invasive, and you should be pissed. I know I'd be. So that said, unfortunately, I don't see anyone involved facing any lawsuits or any investigations, certainly not by the Justice Department, for violating this privacy and for creating these literal databases of gun owners that then were used to target and manipulate you with misleading ads. Okay? So, I don't see anything happening, but I still think it is important to know that the lengths that these industries and lobbying groups will go to fight against anything, any attempts at regulation that could impact their bottom line. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.